Government and Public Accountability, binabati po natin ang ating mga kasamahan na nasa plenary at nasa Zoom. Gayon din po ang ating mga resource persons na nasa Zoom at mga kawani ng ABS-CBN na kasama natin ngayon dito sa session hall. Sa kaalaman po muli ng lahat, tayo po ay napapanood via live stream sa Facebook ng House of Representatives. Comsec, please recognize our resource persons for today.
Before that, we want to recognize the presence via Zoom of Representative Pablo Jan Garcia. For our guests this afternoon, we have from Securities and Exchange Commission via Zoom, Commissioner Epairo Luis Amatong, General Counsel Romuald Padilla, Attorney Erwin Edward Mendinueto, Chief Counsel, SEC MSRD, and Director Vicente Graciano Pilismeño, Jr. From the Philippine Stock Exchange, we have Attorney Roel Rafran, COO, and Attorney Veronica Del Rosario, General Counsel. From the Department of Justice via Zoom, we have Assistant Secretary Nicolas Felix T. From the NTC, we have Commissioner Gamaliel Cordova, and Deputy Commissioner Edgardo Caballos here in the plenary. Office of the Solicitor General, we have Sojan Jose Calida. From the ABS-CBN, we have Mr. Martin Lopez, Chairman, Mr. Carlo Katigbak, President and CEO, Ms. Socorro Bidanes, COO for Broadcast, Mr. Raymond Miranda, Chief Strategy Officer, Mr. Ricardo Tan, Group CFO, Attorney Enrique Quiazon, Corporate Secretary, Attorney Cynthia Del Castillo, Attorney Herminio Zaita, and Attorney Cherry Cruz. Via Zoom, we have Attorney Mario Bautista, General Counsel, and Ms. Consuelo Lopez, Chief of Staff. From former employees of ABS-CBN, observing today, Mr. Jaime Concepcion, Mr. Reparado Galos Jr., Mr. Reynaldo Tugade, and Mr. Tauser Bansonan. That's all.
Salamat, Comsec. Ngayong hapon, ating pong itutuloy ang pagtatanong ng mga issues na ugnay sa aligasyong paglabag sa konstitusyon, particularly whether or not ABS-CBN sold PDRs to foreigners, which allowed ABS-CBN to be owned by non-Filipinos, a violation of 100% ownership in mass media. Sasagot po ang ABS-CBN sa katanungan ng ating mga members tungkol sa PDRs. Gayon din po ang mga resource persons mula sa SEC, DOJ, NTC at SOLGED na nasa Zoom ngayon, upang lalo na nating maintindihan kung ano nga ba ang PDRs. Meron pong mahigit na 30 na membro natin na nagpahayag sa kanilang mga gustuhan na magtanong. Atin lang pong reminder na meron na pong tayong tag 5 minutes per interpolator po.
Mr. Chairman. Yes, Vice Chairman Mike Defensor.
Mr. Chairman, before we proceed with the deliberations, I just want to put on the record that we are not sure of the suspension or adjournment of the last meeting, but having said that, I move that we approve the minute of the last session and of today's meeting in the next committee hearing, Mr. Chairman.
Second the motion.
There's a motion, duly seconded, hearing no objections. Motion is carried. Pinahalagahan ng Blue Ribbon Committee ang pagdinig na ito na naglalayong matukoy ang katotohanan at nang masagot ang aligasyon sa paglabag nga ba ng ABS-CBN sa ating saligang batas. Nang magbenta ito ng PDR sa mga banyaga at pinahintulutan di umano ang mga hindi Pilipino na magmay-ari ng ABS-CBN. Dahil dito, inaasahan natin na magiging substantial ang ating deliberasyon ngayong araw na ito. At upang ating masaayos ang diskusyon at pagtatanong, amin pong hinihiling sa ating mga kasapi at kalahok na kung sakali na naitanong na sa ABS-CBN ay wag na po ulitin muli ang pagtatanong. Pangalawa, sana po ay maging magalang tayo sa bawat isa at iwasan po natin ang mga unparliamentary remarks at panitiliin natin ang respeto sa bawat miyembro ng komiting ito at ang ating mga panauhin. Maraming salamat po.
Sai tumuho sa interpellation, meron po yata manifestation ng ABS-CBN. So, sa ABS-CBN, sino po inyong representative na gagawa ng manifestation? You are recognized.
Mr. Chair, may I request that Attorney Cynthia Del Castillo be allowed to provide the committee a brief statement on the PDRs. Attorney Del Castillo is the pioneer of PDRs, having been involved in the structure of PDRs used by both ABS-CBN and GMA. She is the head of securities law for the law firm Romulo Mabanta and was dean of the Ateneo Law School from 1990 to 2000. Attorney Del Castillo is counsel for ABS-CBN. Mr. Chair, can I request that Attorney Del Castillo be sworn in and recognized, please?
The committee secretary is hereby directed to execute the oath
Stand up.
for Attorney Del Castillo.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth before these joint congressional hearings? So help you God. Thank you.
Sige po, maaari na po kayo magpatuloy. Pakipindot po.
Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. Salamat po sa pangdinig na ito. Kung mamarapatin niyo po, mag-uumpisa ako by going back to the time that the ABS-CBN Holdings PDRs were issued in 1999. Kung matatandaan niyo po, at that time, the Philippines together with its Asian neighbors were all reeling from the effect of the Asian financial crisis in 1997. So our capital market was really very much affected. The gains that we have realized in the early 1990s were all eroded. So we had a lot of companies that needed financing, but the traditional sources of financing like equity and debt were all inadequate at that point in time. Banks were not lending, and if they were on very steep grounds. So this is the milieu when the PDRs were introduced in the Philippines. Hindi po ito bago or novel. This is something that has been used in other financial markets at may counterparts po ito in other countries, including of course the American depository receipts. So this was supposed to be very convenient and beneficial to most companies in the Philippines. First, for the reason na you don't have to partake or to dispose of your ownership in order to raise financing. In the same manner, it is beneficial. This is better than debt because if it is a debt, then you have to pay the principal and interest regardless of the performance of the underlying shares or the shares that you use to secure your obligation. So this is something that was both beneficial to the capital market, to the companies that needed financing, as well as, of course, to the government. So as far as the capital market of the Philippines was concerned, it did perk up the market because of additional securities that were floated and being sold in the market. On the part of the Philippine government, it was increased economic activity for a lot of companies. That, of course, translates to additional collection of taxes. Ang aligasyon po ay ang PDRs ng ABS-CBN Holdings are violative of the Philippine Constitution. Kung matatandaan po natin, the provision that really covers mass media is found in Section 11, Paragraph 1, Article 16 of the Philippine Constitution. Ang sinasabi po nito is that the ownership and management of mass media shall be limited to citizens of the Philippines and to corporations, cooperatives, or associations wholly owned and managed by such citizens. So dalawa lang po ang pinagbabawal. You have ownership and management of mass media companies. Against this test, the question that we ask is whether or not the ABS-CBN Holdings PDRs allow the participation of foreign nationals in the ownership and management of a mass media company. So from the very outset, gusto ko po lamang idiin na magkaiba po ang ABS-CBN Holdings Company sa ABS-CBN Broadcasting Corporation. Yung holdings po own shares in ABS-CBN Broadcasting. Hindi lang po ABS-CBN Holdings ang may may-ari ng shares ng ABS Broadcasting dahil marami pong ibang shareholders ang ABS-CBN Broadcasting. It is broadcasting that is engaged in mass media. ABS-CBN Holdings is a purely holding company. Ang activity po nito, because it is a holding company, is just to invest in shares. So in this case, the PDRs were issued by ABS-CBN Holdings to investors under the terms of what we call the PDR instrument. This is a contract po between the investors of the PDRs and the issuer, who is ABS-CBN Holdings Corporation. This contractual arrangement has nothing to do with ABS-CBN Broadcasting. Because ang parties po ng kontratang ito, which is covered under the PDR instrument, are the investors and ABS-CBN Holdings. Hindi po party sa PDR instrument ang ABS-CBN Broadcasting. Ang only link po, if you can call it a link, is that ang PDR investors po, when they invest in the PDRs, they track the performance of the ABS-CBN Broadcasting kasi doon po nanggagaling ang kita ng ABS-CBN Holdings. Being a holding company, it only derives income through its ownership in other companies in the form of dividends and other distributions from its investments. So yun lang po, kasi kung mag-i-invest sila sa PDRs, they have to know kung anong value ng PDRs, and that was dependent on the performance of the underlying shares. Pero wala po silang pakialam sa ABS-CBN Broadcasting. Hindi po sila partido sa PDR instrument, which is the contract between the investors and ABS-CBN Holdings. Wala pong, as we call it in legal terms, wala pong privity of relationship. So kung hindi man po tumupad ang ABS-CBN Holdings sa kanyang mga obligasyones under the PDR instrument, wala pong right ang PDR holders to proceed against ABS-CBN Broadcasting. So ang tanong po lamang is, does the investment of foreign nationals in the PDRs issued by ABS-CBN Holdings violate the Philippine Constitution? Your answer to this can be yes, only if such investors own shares, which is a test of ownership, or they do participate in the management of ABS-CBN Broadcasting. At ang sabi ko po kanina, magkaiba po ang dalawang korporasyon na to. Wala pong pakialam ang mga investors sa ownership at sa management ng ABS-CBN Broadcasting Company. Ang rights po ng PDR holders are only against ABS-CBN Holdings, hindi po against ABS-CBN Broadcasting, and wala po silang rights, whether of ownership or management of the mass media corporation, which is ABS-CBN Holdings Broadcasting Company. So, para po malinawan kung ano itong mga PDRs na to, there are tests that are employed to determine whether there's a violation of the Philippine Constitution. The first test is the test of ownership, and secondly, of management. So whether they have ownership rights over the mass media company, that is ABS-CBN Broadcasting Corporation, we should really understand the nature of the PDRs. PDRs are purely financial instruments. Hindi po siya shares, hindi po siya nakakaboto sa ABS-CBN Broadcasting, at hindi po siya nakakapag-participate sa management ng ABS-CBN Broadcasting. So in this case, being a financial instrument, ang only expectation po ng investors in PDRs would be, of course, whatever cash distribution and gains they can derive in the trading and transfer of ownership of the PDRs. So, akin pong inuulit, ang ownership po nila ay sa PDRs, hindi po sa shares ng ABS-CBN Broadcasting. Wala po silang right to participate in the management of ABS-CBN Broadcasting because hindi po sila shareholders nito, and they have no rights whatsoever, whether granted by way of contract, arrangement, or any form of understanding, to participate in the voting as shareholders or to direct or cause the voting of the shares in ABS-CBN Broadcasting. So as far as the Philippine regulatory agencies are concerned, this has been recognized by the Securities and Exchange Commission as something which is different from the shares of ABS-CBN Broadcasting because it has approved the registration of ABS-CBN Holdings PDRs and ABS-CBN Broadcasting shares. Magkaiba po sila. They have separate registrations, they have separate trading, and because these PDRs have also been listed and traded in the Philippine Stock Exchange. So pwede po kayong bumili ng ABS-CBN shares sa stock market, pwede din kayong bumili ng PDRs ng ABS-CBN Holdings sa stock market. Magkaiba po silang dalawa. There is no transfer of rights from the shareholders of ABS-CBN Broadcasting to the PDR holders. Because of these separate and distinct characters, the owners of the PDRs na inisyu po ng ABS-CBN Holdings ay hindi po pwedeng sabihin na may-ari ng shares ng ABS-CBN Broadcasting Corporation. So for the owners of ABS-CBN Broadcasting shares such as ABS-CBN Holdings, ang requirement po ng ating batas at ng mga interpretasyon ng ating mga desisyon ng Korte Suprema is that they should have full beneficial interest in the mass media company para po maging compliant with the Philippine Constitution. The full beneficial interest test was employed by, of course, the two well-known cases dealing with nationalization and citizenship. Ito po yung kaso ni Gamboa at ang kaso ni Roy versus Herbosa. Simple lang po ang pagka-discuss sa case ng Roy versus Herbosa. You have rights to participate in the ownership of the mass media company only if the shares have been assigned to you or the voting rights have been assigned to you. Hindi po yan binigay sa PDR holders. Ang bumoboto po ng mga shares ay ang ABS-CBN Holdings, hindi po ang investors ng PDRs. So, hindi po talaga pwedeng sabihin that they are owners of shares or equity in the mass media company, which is a restricted business insofar as the Constitution is concerned. Yung other test po, apart from ownership, in the case of full beneficial ownership, ay yung pong right ng PDR holders to receive dividends and other fruits and accessions. Ang sabi po ni Roy versus Herbosa, kung ikaw ay entitled to receive the dividends from the mass media company or any forms of profits, accessions, or fruits, then the beneficial ownership lies in the PDR holders and not in the owner of the shares. Wala pong ganong assignment ang PDR instrument na ibinibigay ang right to dividends and any fruits or accessions to the PDR holders. What they are entitled to would be cash distribution from ABS-CBN Holdings Corporation. Yung cash distribution po, pwede pong manggaling at in most cases, nanggagaling din sa dividendo ng ABS-CBN. Pero ang the one entitled to those dividends ay hindi ang ABS-CBN Holdings PDR holders, but ABS-CBN Holdings. So para po niyang ni-receive the one entitled, because this is a shareholder right, the one entitled is ABS-CBN Holdings. Hindi po niya ina-assign ang kanyang rights to dividends to the PDR holders. Ang kanya lang pong commitment is that pagkatapos po makareceive ng income, and because this is a holding company and income is derived from their ownership or investment in shares, I will get my operating expenses, I will get the amount that I need for my taxes, I will need the amount that I need to discharge my loans, at kung may sobra, those are the ones that will be distributed in the form of cash distribution to the PDR holders. Kung for any reason po ABS-CBN Holdings does not do this and does not pay the PDR holders, the right of action of PDR holders is against ABS-CBN Holdings, and not against ABS-CBN Broadcasting Corporation. Even if ABS-CBN Broadcasting Corporation earns a lot of profits, even if it accumulates a lot of profits, wala pong right ang PDR holders to compel the declaration of those dividends kasi hindi po sila shareholders. Ang kanila lang inaasahan ay ang distribution ng ABS-CBN Holdings pagkatapos itong bayaran ang lahat ng kanyang pangangailangan at kung may sobra man po ay yun ang i-distribute sa PDR holders. So as far as the issuance of the PDRs are concerned, the PDR instrument does not transfer any voting rights, especially for the right to vote directors. Kung matatandaan niyo po, the case of Gamboa versus Teves, yung mahaba-habang desisyon ni Justice Carpio, ang kanila pong pinag-usapan lang is ano ba ang control na pinagbabawal ng Constitution. The control na pinagbabawal ng Constitution is the control and more principally the power to elect the directors. Bakit po just the vote on the directors? Kasi the vote on directors is crucial in the sense that it is the board of directors that control the affairs of the corporation and they are the ones that manage the corporation. So anyone who has the power to vote directors has control over the corporation. Wala pong ganong right ang PDR holders. Wala po silang right to vote the directors. Wala rin po silang right to direct ABS-CBN to vote in any particular way, including of course the voting in the case of the election of directors. Ang PDR holders po are what we call passive investors. Hindi po sila nakikialam sa ownership and management. The commitments of ABS-CBN Holdings is really just to make cash distribution. Because it is a financial instrument, ang expectation lang ay financial rewards. So they can do this two ways. Dahil po listed ang PDRs ng ABS-CBN Holdings, they can trade those PDRs in the market. And they can have, of course, gains arising from the trading of their PDRs. The other way is, of course, wait for the cash distribution insofar as ABS-CBN Holdings are concerned. So the dividends received by ABS-CBN Holdings from ABS-CBN Broadcasting Corporation are those that are relied upon by the PDR holders. Pero hindi po ito pass-through. Some people are saying it is a pass-through. Hindi po ito pass-through. Kasi para po yan ni-receive ko. Kung ako ay shareholder ng isang kumpanya, ni-receive ko yan, sa akin po yung dividendo na yun. And after paying all my expenses and all my obligations, I can commit to give the balance to anyone. Kasi sa akin po yun. Ako ang may-ari ng mga dividendo. And that is exactly what happens in the case of the PDR holders. So, as I said previously, kung hindi po yan bayaran ng ABS-CBN Holdings, hindi po sila pwede magdemanda against ABS-CBN Broadcasting Corporation because wala po silang right to proceed against ABS-CBN Broadcasting directly. Kung hindi po sila satisfied sa kanilang investments, wala po yung direct action against the mass media company. Pwede nilang ibenta yung kanilang PDRs o pwede nilang i-exercise yung exercise rights, which is of course to acquire the shares kung sila ay qualified, kung sila ay Pilipino, at kung hindi man, na ang kanilang right lang ay to obtain the proceeds of the sale of those shares. So as you can see, there is no direct link to the shares of ABS-CBN Broadcasting Company. So all of these factors that I have discussed only point to one fact. The PDRs have a life of its own. Hindi po yan naka-attach sa shares ng ABS-CBN Broadcasting. They trade independently. There are financial and cash distributions which are separately given by ABS-CBN Holdings. At sila po ay hindi talaga magkapareho. I think the confusion in the layman's eyes is always na parang magkapareho yung PDR holders at yung shareholders ng ABS-CBN Broadcasting Corporation. Magkaiba po. Kasi ang ABS-CBN Holdings is a shareholder of ABS-CBN Broadcasting. The PDR holders are owners of financial instruments issued by ABS-CBN Holding Company. The other issue po is yung management ng mass media companies. So, meron bang right ang mga PDR holders to participate in the management of ABS-CBN Broadcasting, which is the mass media company? Wala po, because the management lies and is under the control of the board of directors of ABS-CBN Broadcasting Corporation. Hindi po sila shareholders. Neither were they given any right in the PDR instrument to cause the election of the board of directors or to cause the voting in one way or another of the shares owned by ABS-CBN Holdings. They do not have the power to vote and certainly do not have the power to vote directors. Pwede po ba silang ma-appoint in management positions? Kung talaga pong qualified, pwede naman pong ma-appoint in management positions. But the fact na meron silang PDR is not their entitlement to be appointed or elected to management positions of the mass media company. If they so happen to be PDR directors, PDR holders, and they're foreign nationals, and they do participate or appointed in management positions, hindi po yan dahil sa PDRs. Because the PDRs do not have any right to be appointed, elected as directors, or appointed to management positions. At ang isa pong namin gustong sabihin is, yung ABS-CBN Holdings PDRs ay registered po sa Securities and Exchange Commission under our securities regulations. They are also listed in the Philippine Stock Exchange. And if you know the scrutiny that this government agency and market authority does in doing registration and the listing, you will know that this company, ABS-CBN Holdings, subjected itself to the full scrutiny, review, regulation, and supervision of the Securities and Exchange Commission and the Philippine Stock Exchange. Kung meron po silang ginagawang kalokohan or circumvention of the Philippine Constitution, they would not subject themselves to this kind of scrutiny. Because lahat naman po ng ginagawa ng ABS-CBN Holdings as issuer of PDRs ay dinidisclose naman po to this government agency and market authority. Hindi po sila nagtatago ng kahit ano because it's their obligation under the law to make material disclosures. In issuing all of these securities, ang ABS-CBN po Holdings have, in good faith, complied with all the requirements of the government regulatory agencies that have jurisdiction over
Mr.
them.
Chairman,
Yes, Vice Chairman Remulla.
the presentation seems to be very long. Are they winding up already or haba pa?
Salamat po.
Ma'am, gaano kahaba pa po yung...
I'm closing na po.
Yes, ma'am. Please continue.
So I just want to close by saying that their acts are all above board. They have relied on the approvals and the permits and licenses issued by the Securities and Exchange Commission and the Philippine Stock Exchange. If for any reason those decisions are wrong and the courts declare that they are wrong, we have po in good faith relied on them. So it's going to cause some effect on the Philippine capital market dahil po it will erode the investors' confidence in decisions made by these government agencies and market regulation authority. So yun lang po ang gusto namin sabihin na wala po kami itinatago. We have not circumvented the Philippine Constitution and all the terms and conditions of the PDRs have been fully disclosed and of course evaluated by the government agencies and the market authority. Marami pong
Mr.
salamat.
Chairman? Thank you.
Marami pong salamat.
Tapos na po kayo, ma'am.
Tapos na po.
Maraming salamat po. At in the spirit of fairness po, sa espiritu po ng pagkakapantay-pantay para sa mga pro-ABS at sa anti-ABS, ay magkakaroon naman po tayo ng counter presentation na para po sa usapin ng PDRs na gagampanan po ni Vice Chairman Mike Defensor.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Vice Chairman Remulla.
I just want to qualify the witness because we allowed the witness to speak without much introduction. Diretso na po sa usapan tungkol sa PDR. Pwede ko po i-qualify ng kaunti lang.
Papayagan po kita.
Tatanungin ko lang po siya sa background at lahat. Pero di naman humahaba eh. Tatanungin ko para I want to satisfy myself that she is a competent witness.
1
in
minute.
this hearing.
1 minute, Vice Chairman Remulla.
Attorney Del Castillo, abogado po kayo ng ABS-CBN.
Opo.
Kaya nagsasalita po kayo bilang abogado ng ABS-CBN.
Opo.
At sa inyong pagsasabi sa amin, hindi kayo humaharap dito bilang para sa taxpayer, kundi para sa ABS-CBN na nagbabayad ng inyong attorney's fee.
Ang participation po namin dito ay as counsel of ABS-CBN.
As counsel of ABS-CBN, kayo rin po ang nag-design ng PDR.
Hindi po yan inimbento. Dahil po ang PDRs ay may counterparts po yan in other financial market. Kami lang po ang unang nag-introduce sa Pilipinas.
So kayo po ang advisor nila, kayo po ang nag-advisor ng ABS-CBN tungkol sa PDR.
Opo.
Kaya pag nagsasalita kayo dito sa harap namin, expected po, sasabihin nyo walang mali, kasi kayo po yung abogado ng ina-examine dito. Siyempre, di ba ho?
Pero obligasyon din po ng abogado na bago niya sabihin yun, i-review po niya.
Pero yun nga, ang ibig ko sabihin po, ang pinag-uusapan natin, kayo po ang may akda, kaya ang sinasabi nyo sa amin, walang mali sa inyong ginawa. Tama po ba yun?
Opo, at yun po ay kumpirmado.
Salamat po, salamat po.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Remulla. Yes, Congressman Barsaga.
Mungkahi lamang kagalang-galang chairman.
Sige po.
Pwede bang makahingi tayo ng hard copy ng sinabi ni Dean Castillo? Kasi it's a little bit complicated and definitely her dissertation will be considered by the members of this committee in the deliberation whether or not we shall grant or not the franchise of ABS-CBN.
Thank you, Congressman Barsaga. The committee secretary is hereby directed to
Mr.
give
Chairman.
the copy of the manifestation of Attorney Del Castillo to all members.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Congresswoman Biolago.
thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon. I just want to clarify kung tama po ba ang dinig ko kay attorney na yung kita ng ABS Holding came from ABS-CBN Corporation?
Opo, kasi po they own shares.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Congresswoman Biolago. And without further ado, I give the floor to Vice Chairman Mike Defensor to give the counter presentation about PDRs.
Maraming salamat, Chairman Alvarado, sa ating pong mga guests sa ABS-CBN, sa aking mga kasama na nandito. Una po sa lahat, gusto ko lang pong linawin na wala naman pong pro-anti dito, Mr. Chairman. Importante lang po na tanungin namin ang tamang mga tanong, malaman namin ang katotohanan, at batay po doon, bumoto kami. Sa inyong po mga presentasyon at doon sa mga isyong na ilagak dito sa komite, pwede mo nagkamali kayo. But does it require a rescission of the franchise? Pwede po bang yun ang maging batay ng hindi pagre-renew? Pwede rin pong ito rin ang maging batayan na sabihin ng mga miyembro ng komite na huwag i-renew dahil ganito ang naging ginawang violation. Pero importante po sa amin na tanungin ang ating mga applicant, ang ABS-CBN Corporation, para malinawan po tayong lahat. Alam mo natin ang kalagahan ng inyong trabaho, ng inyong negosyo. Hindi lang po negosyo yan. Siya po ang nagbibigay ng kultura, siya po ang nagbibigay ng impormasyon at kaisipan sa ating mga mamamayan at higit sa lahat sa ating mga kabataan. Gusto ko rin pong sabihin, and yeah, if I may make the presentation, Mr. Chairman, napaka-komplikado po ng usapin nitong PDRs. Hindi ho ganun kasimple. At sa akin pong maliit na presentasyon, at siguro sa ating matanungan, malinawan natin talaga. Pero pagpamunin niyo ho, dahil ako po may konklusyon sa aking ginawang pag-aaral at sa aking presentasyon ngayong hapon. Next slide please. Yung ating pong konstitusyon, which you mentioned, Attorney Del Castillo, dalawa pong ang bagay ang sinasabi niya, ownership and management. Yan pong dalawang bagay na kanyang tinitingnan sa isang korporasyon. Higit sa lahat sa mass media, 100% ang ownership fully owned by Filipinos. Ibig sabihin nyo, kahit katiting, hindi pwedeng magkaroon ng ownership ang Taiwan. Sa ating pong mga tahanan, no, meron din control at ownership. Yung ownership, pag-aari yung mag-asawa, yung bahay. Pero yung control, kay misis. Dito ho, hindi naman pinag-uusapan mismo ang control. Because the cases you mentioned about Herbosa and Roy, the case you mentioned about Gamboa, we're all talking about the 60-40 relationship and they were talking about control. So pinag-aralan po nila. They were studying the common preferred shares and how it affected the voting, the beneficial ownership of the corporation. So ibang po naman ang usapin ng ownership. Yun lang po ang pinag-uusapan natin dito. Dahil sa palagay ko naman, sa control, wala naman po sigurong ganong lumabas o naging epekto. But let us see. Ang PDRs po ay pagtatago sa tunay na pagmamay-ari ng Taiwan. Next slide please. Ano po ba ang depository receipt? Ang sabi po niya, katulad na banggit niya, matagal na po ito. Meron pong American Depository Receipts, Depository, yan po yung sinasabi nila. Meron pong GDR, German Depository Receipts, Global Depository Receipts. Ang kaibahan dito sa Pilipinas, nung ginawa po ito, at matagal pong hindi ginawa sa Pilipinas po, dahil may ownership restriction, hindi nila alam paano ipoporma ang depository receipts. At nangyari lang po ito, ng katulad ng binanggit nyo, na magsimula itong 1999 na ito po yung sinagawa ng ABS-CBN at ng iba pang kumpanya na gumawa ng depository receipts. Ito po ay negotiable security which represents ownership, interest and securities of a foreign issuer, typically trading outside its home market. A PDR represents a share in a company which gives the owner the right to own the dividends due and shares of stock acquired. Ang ibig pong sabihin, ang lahat ng kita ng PDR pupunta doon sa may hawak ng PDR. Ang PDR po, ito po yung inyo pong Philippine Depository Certificate. Ang nakalagay po dito sa inyong Philippine Depository Certificate, one existing share of ABS Broadcasting Corporation is equal to 1 PDR. Andito po, nakasubmit po sa amin sa inyong komite. Pwede mong bumalik yung slide, parang nauna. So, hindi po pwedeng ibenta o bilhin ang PDR kung hindi gustong ibenta ng may-ari. Ang ibig sabihin po, para lang humaliwanagan yung ating mga nanonood, sa palengke ho, may rights. Sa palengke, yung nagbebenta, pwede niyang ibenta yung rights niya. Umabot po yan ng 100,000, minsan milyon pa. Yung kita sa rights niya, pumupunta doon po sa nagbebenta sa palengke. Pero yun nga po, walang titulo. Dito po sa PDR, nakasabay po ito sa isang titulo. Wala siya sa pangalan ng titulo, pero siya ang nagmay-ari ng titulo. 1 ABS-CBN broadcasting share is equal to 1 PDR. Sa palengke, rights, walang titulo, pero yan po, ganyan ang nagiging usapin sa kita at pagmamay-ari. Next slide please. Yung kung binanggit niyo, tama po kayo. Ang ABS-CBN Corporation ay kaiba sa ABS-CBN Broadcasting Corporation. At ang kumpanya po ng ABS-CBN Holdings Corporation ay ang pagbibenta ng PDR. So pag tinignan po ang ABS-CBN na kumpanya, ang may-ari ABS-CBN Holdings Corporation. Next slide. Ang ABS-CBN Holdings Corporation po, 50% pagmamay-ari ng Lopez Inc. at iba pang mga direktor at opisyalis nito. Yan po ay galing sa inyong webpage. Next slide, please. Yan din ho, galing sa Philippine Stock Exchange, na ang sinasabi po niya na ang ABS-CBN Broadcasting ay owned by Lopez Inc. At ito po ay kasama dito ang negosyo ng pagbibenta ng PDR. Next slide. Ang ABS-CBN po maraming layers ng pagmamayari. Hindi lang po ang ABS-CBN Corporation, katulad po yung kanina pinakita ko, ang nagmamayari ABS-CBN Holdings. Nandyan po ang PDR sa ABS-CBN Holdings. Ang Lopez Inc. din po, na hindi po yan listed, meron po yan Lopez Holdings na listed company. So ang layering po, napakadami. Diyan po sa diagram na yan, makikita nyo. And for the record, Mr. Chairman, pagpaumanin po ng ABS-CBN Corporation, hindi ho sinabit sa amin ang dokumento ng Lopez Inc. to Lopez Holdings Corporation. And maybe at a proper time, we can ask for that. Kasi ang hawak lang po namin, ABS-CBN and ABS-CBN Holdings. Next slide, please. Kung titingnan nyo po, dyan po sa listahan ng Lopez Holdings Corporation, 54% po dyan ay Lopez Inc. Yung pong Filipino group ng PCD nominee, dyan po ang mga PDRs, 30%. At malinaw po, nakadeklara sa inyong mismong website, non-Filipino PCD nominee corporation at 9.89%. Kanina ko sinabi na Tony Del Castillo, meron na pong ABS-CBN Holdings, meron na pong banyaga na magmamayari. And I think it's very clear also, nandito po sa akin yung pag-uusap na ginawa noong shareholders meeting. Ang sabi po, the PDRs sa ABS-CBN Holdings, the PDRs unlock the share value of ABS-CBN, allowing foreigners to participate in a media enterprise whose ownership is constitutionally limited to Filipinos, with foreigners allowed to buy PDRs, shares which have long been undervalued, can now play catch up with the regional media counterparts. Ito naman po galing sa ABS-CBN Holdings Corporation. So paglilinaw lang po, may Lopez Inc., may ABS-CBN, meron ABS-CBN Holdings, at meron Lopez Holdings. Sa dalawa pong korporasyon ng ABS-CBN Holdings at Lopez Holdings, meron po mga banyaga na nagmamayari ng PDRs. At ang PDRs po niyan, may katumbas na share sa ABS-CBN. So ito po yung susunod, ang ABS-CBN, next slide please, Corporation. Kung titingnan nyo po dyan, 490 million shares, Lopez Inc. Tapos nandyan din po yung PCD Nominee Corporation, 352 million shares. Yan po kailangan nating himayin. Sino po ba dyan ang PDR holders na banyaga? Next slide, please. Again, in the Lopez Holdings Corporation, nakalagay po dyan, Lopez Holdings Corporation entered into a memorandum of agreement with Lopez Inc. for the subscription of Philippine depository receipts to be issued by Lopez Inc., which are common shares of ABS-CBN Corporation. Lopez Holdings Corporation's total investment in the deposit receipts amount to 1.5 billion. Kaya pagpawan niyo po, Attorney Del Castillo, medyo ididibang ko lang po yung binanggit niyo kanina, there is an actual share in ABS-CBN Corporation. They may not have their names, wala po sa pangalan nila, yung ABS-CBN Corporation share, pero ang bawat PDR ay may katumbas na share sa ABS-CBN Corporation. Next slide, please. Yan po ang sample contract. Pinakita ko na po kanina yan, at muli po, papakita ko yan, ang existing corporation po ng ABS-CBN Broadcasting, 1 PDR, 1 ABS. Kung iambing ko po yan sa bahay, meron kang bahay, may titulo. yung titulo mo, sinabi mo may papel kang hawak, ako nagmamay-ari ng 30% ng bahay na yan, wala kang pangalan sa titulo. Pero batay sa kontratang yon, hindi mabibenta yung bahay. O kung mabenta man, mapupunta sa iyo ang 30%. Pag ang bahay pinarenta ng 1,000, 300 pupunta sa iyo, bawat kita ng bahay na yan. Yan po, sa aking palagay, is a circumvention of our Constitution on ownership. Sa maraming pagkakataon, yan po ay pwede mo nating sabihin anti-dummy. Na merong banyaga, meron siyang kinabitan na korporasyon na Pilipino, pero ang kita, ang pagmamay-ari sa katotohanan kanya. So ito po yung slide ng ABS-CBN, one share, one stock. Ito po, katulad na banggit ko, ay violation ng ownership. Isang pagpapaliwanag pa rin no, ang tax declaration, hindi ho siya titulo. Pero yung po ay pagpapakilala ng pagmamay-ari. Kung ito po lang ay paliwanag natin sa ating mga kababayan, ganun po ang kanilang sitwasyon. Ngayon no, maraming pinag-usapan sa control. Kasi ang sabi po nila, wala namang control dahil sa wala naman silang boto, wala silang magagawa. At kung sakasakali, ang Holdings Corporation ang bumoboto. Papasok po ako doon sa kontrata natin, yung Philippine Deposit Receipt Instrument. Next slide please. Thank you. Ang nakalagay po dito, it will not alter, modify, or otherwise change its articles of corporation or bylaws or take any action as to materially prejudice any rights in relations to the PDRs. Ito po ang tinatawag na negative covenant. Wala kang pwedeng gawin hanggat kapit ko ang PDR. Wala pong pinagkaiba yan ng ECQ. Doon po sa kaso ng Rappler, bago ka lumabas, magpaalam ka sa barangay, kumonsulta ka. Dito, sinasabi na ng barangay, hindi ka pwedeng lumabas. Sa parehong ehemplo, ang kontrol nasa barangay. Sa pagkakataong ng hunto, ang may-ari ng PDR may kontrol sa korporasyon. Next slide. Ito po, sinabi kanina ni Chairman Alvarado, when the law is clear, there is nothing for the courts to do but to apply it. This is the case of the Tawang Multipurpose Cooperative versus La Trinidad Water District. Our constitution is very clear. There should be no foreign ownership, foreign control of our mass media corporations. Bawal po ang banyaga na magmay-ari o mag-control. At yan po, malinaw na malinaw at hindi po natin pwedeng palusutan. Last slide po. What cannot be done directly cannot be done indirectly. If acts that can be legally done directly can be done indirectly, then all laws would be illusory. Pagpaiman niyo ho, kahit isang patak, kahit gabuti lang ng pagmamay-ari, hindi pwede. Kahit na ano pong layering ng korporasyon, pag may lumabas na isang banyaga at pumasok yan sa ABS-CBN Corporation, hindi ho pinapayagan. Hindi ho pinapayagan ang direktang pagmamay-ari. At pagpamain nyo, Atty. Del Castillo, ang PDR po ay isang pagpapalusot ng pagmamay-ari ng banyaga. Maraming salamat, Mr. Chairman. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the clarification, Congressman Vice Chairman Mike Defensor. At para po sa kaalaman ng lahat, dahil po ang pinag-uusapan ay PDR, kahit po ABS-CBN lang po ang nag-a-apply ngayon, ay nais po ng committee ito na makita lahat ng mga PDRs ng mga mass media and broadcasting companies na nabigyan na, formerly nabigyan na, or mag-a-apply pa lang dito sa joint committee na ito. Lalong-lalo na po yung mga major broadcasting stations natin. Sana po bago yung susunod na hearing ay makuha natin at mapag-compare natin kung pare-parehas ba ang laman ng kanilang mga PDRs. The committee's secretary is hereby directed to secure copies of all PDRs of all major broadcasting mass media companies in the country that will apply or otherwise applied and given franchise by this committee.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Deputy Speaker Dan Fernandez, alam niyo po nung huling hearing po natin ay hindi po natapos ni Deputy Speaker Dan Fernandez yung kanyang oras. At kung ako'y nagkakamali, nag-uumpisa pa lamang siya sa kanyang pagtatanong, kaya po napakaswerte po niya sa pagkakataong ito, hindi ibabawas pa ba namin yung 1 minuto mong nakonsumo? Hinihingi na po niya na pang-bonus yung 1 minute na nakonsumo niya. So you now have your fresh 5 minutes, Deputy Speaker Dan Fernandez, para sa pag-uumpisa ng ating nag-iisang round ng interpellation. Maraming salamat.
Maraming salamat, Mr. Chairman, at nadinig po natin ang manifestation ng ABS-CBN at nadinig din po natin ang manifestation ni Vice Chairman Mike Defensor. Ang pinagtatalunan po natin dito ay ang paggamit po ng PDR, whether ang PDR po na-issue natin sa mga banyaga ay in consonant with the Section 11, Article 16 of the 1987 Constitution that states that the ownership and management of mass media shall be limited to the citizens of the Philippines. And at the same time, ito rin po ay binabanggit sa Section 8 ng Foreign Investment Act of 1991, and at the same time, ito pong sinasabi natin Presidential Decree number 1018 of Section 2. Siguro po ang una kong katanungan na gusto ko pong malaman ay sa ABS-CBN Corporation, kung magkano na po yung ating capital investment, yung buong total investment ng ABS-CBN, magkano na po? ABS-CBN Corporation can answer this. If I man, meron na po ba siyang nasa 100 billion, 85 billion, 90 billion? Magkano po ba?
Sir, yung, Mr. Chair, yung total investment po ng ABS is about 30 billion more or less in stockholders' equity po.
Yun po yung sa stocks. Pero yung totality po ng investment. Kasi I think yung sinasabi po natin, ito po ba yung equity ng ABS-CBN, yung 35 billion. But yung totality po niyan ay umaabot na po siya ng 84.5 billion as submitted. 84 billion. Correct. Okay. So sa 84.5 billion na pag-aari ng ABS-CBN Corporation, magkano po yung naibigay po natin or ano po ba ang naging mode o procurement ng ABS-CBN